with SHARAN. This is a platform where we actually interview people who do things differently, who don't do things which normally all of us do. And they are heroes or heroines, heroes, I would say, no heroines, but heroes in their own way. And why do we do this? Because a part of health, because SHARAN is connected to health, and a part of our health is finding our purpose in life. And when you find your purpose in life and when you're aligned to that, then everything just falls into place, including our health. So it's today's session is going to focus a lot on that, as well as the fact that we're celebrating motherhood. Let me just tell everybody who's new to SHARAN that SHARAN is a social enterprise started by Dr. Nandita Shah. She's an outstanding doctor who's very different, because whenever you go to her, she'll never prescribe you medicines. She only prescribes food and medicine, food as medicine, sorry. And she's also the recipient of the Nari Shakti Puraskar, which is the highest award for women in our country. And though she's not a biological mom, I still call her a mom, because I have seen her connection with animals. I think she finds herself as a mom for all the animals on this planet. And actually, whenever I am with her, and if she's around an animal who's suffering, I actually dread it, because I can see the pain in and it's difficult. It's difficult for her and for whoever is with her to experience that. So she is working as a mom in a very different way. But today, let's invite our guest, Shikha, who is actually a voice for moms, I would say, a voice for, and I had a word with her just the other day, and it was so interesting. And even though I'm a mom, never looked at things the way she looked at it, in such a different and unique way. So I'm sure there's a lot that we're going to be learning and getting inspired with Shikha. So please allow me to call Shikha on board. Hi, Shikha. So welcome to Smoothie with SHARAN. And do you have your smoothie so we can do a cheers? Okay, lovely. What's in your smoothie?
Similar glass.
Yeah.
So mine, because it's evening time, I've just put an organic apple, kadi patta, it has kale, and it has a little bit of black pepper and salt. So it's a salty smoothie.
Okay,
Because I
lovely.
just thought the sweet one which
Okay.
I have would be too much to have it in night. So
Okay, lovely, lovely. So Shikha, tell me, let's start from the beginning very much, where you got into photography, must be how many years ago now?
23 years.
23 years ago. Okay. And I don't think photography was mainstream in any way at that time, isn't it?
Photography was, women were not in photography in mainstream. Photography was always there, I think, for years, and we have some great photographers from old era, but
Okay.
women
All
were
right.
never photographers. They
Okay.
were, I don't want to say never, but they were very few, and they were usually in journalism.
Ah, okay. All right. Not somebody working. So, how did you get into that stream? I mean, you followed your calling or your purpose?
Well, my life has been very interesting, so I don't want to get into details. There's all exciting parts and not exciting parts. But I just, at a very young age, I think the credit, though my project is on mums, but the credit goes to being having a very supportive father who
Mhm.
loved photography, but more than that, who only knew how to say yes to his daughter. And at that time, even if people thought that it was totally out of just something so different and crazy, he said, "Do you really want to do it?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "All right, you go ahead, do this course, and we will see what will happen." So I came from a business class family. There were no artists in there. So it was quite a journey for me to step up. But having said that, I think when you have a parent who one knows his parenting, that he
Mhm.
says whatever she is going to decide, she's going to take it the right way. So I trust her. And
Mhm.
then he, in spite of all odds and all expenses or whatever was happening to him, he made me go through this international course at the age of 18.
Okay.
When there were only passport size photographers or some Jhola photographers going to weddings. So I don't know how he did it with that heart that, oh my God, what's going to happen to
Yeah.
me? But
Yeah.
when I went to him and I said, I really want to do it because I was doing very well in college and competitions. And my
Mhm.
fine arts teacher said, you're meant to be a photographer.
Okay, all right. Okay. So, yeah, I think we learned one very important lesson already, that listen to your heart and allow your children to listen to their heart, because
Exactly.
maybe at that time it just doesn't make sense. But if they follow their path and they're happy, that's what we want as parents eventually, isn't it? Lovely. So then how did you start? Like, what were your assignments at that time? What you do?
So, you know, I was pretty like we had to study. There were no like there were no courses in India where a educated photographer could come out. That's why I had an ability at the age of 19 to become a professional photographer because I
Hmm.
was studying it. And initially, I started fashion and then advertising, and I was very good at it. But my heart was just every time I saw a newborn, every time I saw a life, I just kept on saying that I really want to be very close to them. And at that time, I was very inspired by Annie Geddes cards, which is 23 years back, the Archie cards.
Hmm.
But over a period of time, my love for life, which I could say in a very nice word. That time I was very young. I couldn't have not
Right,
articulated like this, but
right.
my love for a new life every time just fascinated me so much that
Wow.
I wanted to become a baby photographer. And that's how I launched baby photography in this country. And incidentally, that's how the paper said. Incidentally, she's India's first baby and child photographer at that time.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, how did it feel when I mean, you went through fashion and advertising, and then suddenly you started doing? How was the first experience? Do you remember? Like, was it, and it was new for the mom as well, because this was not something that was uh,
Uh,
done.
my first assignment was GPS International, and I must again give credit. I think blessings come when you start believing in blessings.
Hmm.
And the second person who blessed me with a yes, and that's why this is a message like a yes is not a problem. Yes is a good thing if you can see potential. And there was Deepest International principal, and I went, I used to be shooting on film cameras, and I went with a very big portfolio with bright eyes children, and I said, can I come to your school and do an assignment? And she looked at me and she like, how much you want to do it? I said, I will do anything to be here. So she said, 3 months. I said, all right, okay, I'll be there for 3 months. So 3 months every day I was there, and I did my first assignment, and they finished their first year. And for the first time, a school did a photo exhibition in Delhi out of
Oh,
pictures.
wow.
And then they put them all over their school and paid me for it. So
Okay.
that gave me a lot of confidence. And from there, parents started to call me. And
Right.
the
Okay.
black eye concept was very, very strong. But again, love wins. Uh, my charm was always winning. A degree helped because you had a degree and it was not that. But still, I had to, cross that whole thing that nazar lag jayegi, something will happen with your baby. She's
Uh,
very young. She's never managed kids. I had to tell them that I've studied psychology. I studied how to hold the kids. I had to convince them. And then I think then the blessing again was that the work was pretty pretty happy work. So then
of
everybody
course.
wanted their children. So then word of mouth, and then that's how I.
Okay, but then you have babies crying and babies yelling and babies don't want to wear this, and how would you manage all that? Not being such a young person. I mean that, and the mums also being young, probably. So how would you manage that?
You don't have to manage anything, I think. And I think I understood this again at a very young age that that's what it is. And I wanted my vision to show beautiful pictures was so high that sometimes I waited for 8 hours.
Hmm.
And I had again created a a boundary for myself that this is the boundary you don't cross. And I can give the credit to my teachers abroad to teach me that when we were doing psychology, that the mothers are going through so much, right?
Right.
The children are not pumpkins, and children are not sunflowers, and children are not, they're just perfect just as it is. And I
Correct.
think I imbibed that so deeply. There was one of our teachers who taught me the emotional side of photography. So
Uh-huh.
I would just sit down fascinated with wide eyes, because when you're young and you're doing something that you want to, and then you get a chance to do it, you just wide eyed sit there and you're like, wow, this is amazing. And I was always fascinated. So it never had a problem. Patience is the only key. And withdrawing is like sometimes I've gone 3 times and I've said, okay, not settle, not settle. I'll come again. I'll come again. I'll come.
Right,
That's
right,
what got my reputation that she is very interested in the well-being of the child and the emotional well-being of the mother.
right,
And no nails. I've never had nails in my life. Nothing. All those things were taken care of. So
right.
that made it safe for kids.
So when you became a mom, I mean, was it a shock, or you were dealing with so many mothers? Was it kind of, or is it always a new experience?
Um, when my husband married me, he said, "Oh well, I'm marrying a very expert person who knows how to handle children, and she studied psychology and like all the show offs." Because he was a very old friend of mine when I got married to him later.
Mm.
Um, when it hit me, it was like I just didn't know what to do, and I was like, "What is happening?" When this unfolding of life was so different when it was yours and it was
Right,
24/7 and it was so much. And having said that, um, I remember, all the knowledge which is from the outside was just out of the window because this is totally different. Raising life yourself is so different. And
absolutely.
having again, like the project that we're going to further talk about, all my life for 10, 12 years till then, I was complimented that I can see the inner light of a human being when I take their pictures, and especially moms. And mothers had a very negative chatter. My face is not the same, my hair is not the same, I have the dark circles, I put on weight, I don't look the same. And whenever I asked the moms that, what is it that you want in the picture, they would give me a list of what they never wanted in the pictures. No dark circles, no fat, no this, no that. And that negative talk was with what she progressed for next 20 years till the time the child release, and then stayed back with that thing on herself that I don't look beautiful anymore. And I thought from outside I was always healing them, showing them the pictures. But when I became a mom, I was like, wow, that's the gift you get. That's the gift after a few months which comes and sits on you. And I'm like, I'm not beautiful, I'm not nice, I'm not worthy, I don't know what's happening, why are these dark circles, what is this change? So I dealt with that as first time with my child myself.
Right,
I was
right.
like, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. So we can never judge until we are ourselves experiencing it, right? It's so easy to say, but I guess when you go through it, you realize where you are. So how did you overcome that as a mom and still
I never
continue?
judged them because my work was to bring light in them, but I judged myself.
Mhm.
And that's what's the problem. The problem was that I had all the faith and love for the world, but none for myself when I became that. And how do you do that? And how do you bring yourself to start loving yourself and tell yourself what you were telling the world that no, you're beautiful, you're amazing. And
Right,
so it took me a lot of self-work. And also I must say this, that the learning was that we also judge when it comes to judgment. This is a perfect mother, this is not a perfect mother, this mother doesn't know how to do things, and that's not okay. But there's so many things that are going through, and because we are about well-being here, sometimes the mother is like health-wise struggling, she is struggling mentally,
right,
she's struggling with her childhood issues, she is struggling with the cultural issues, she's struggling with letting go of her dream, and she's struggling with nuclear families, and she's become the person who becomes like 10 people together in one child's life.
right,
And then she tries to come out, and then there are judgments by herself and the world saying, oh, she's leaving her child here. Oh, she's not doing this. Oh, she's not taking care of herself. Oh, she doesn't look great. Why is she in pajamas? Why she left her job? Or why is she going for a job? So
right,
I think I saw all that, but it was more like a book opening up for me because I was fascinated with the world of mothers.
right.
I was like, wow, this is what the world is viewing me like, or I am viewing myself. And I must stop, because if I have a light outside and I can see it outside and it cannot see it inside, then there's something wrong with my work. Then it's
Right.
superficial. So that's how the self work started internally.
So, what kind of self-work would, I mean, I'm sure a lot of women, as you rightly, a lot of moms, as you rightly portrayed, have all these things somewhere there. Maybe sometimes we're not even accepting and we think, oh, no, no, we are doing well and all, but it's there somewhere. So, how do we do this self-work?
Well, ask for help first, study second. And I must confess, and I now that my story is out after the book, that my mom was had to be taken away because she had schizophrenia. I was a big joint family child, and she had to be taken away because so-called she was not fit for her children. And schizophrenia, 40 years, like I'm 45 years old, and schizophrenia was not considered or not it my dad tried, though my dad is my soulmate, but he tried, and he was a grandfather of a big family. She had to be taken away because of the violence she was creating for the other family members and other kids and for us. So, well, quietly, when you get abandoned like that with no question asked, and somebody is taken, a mother is taken away, um, you can't escape it, especially when you become a mother. Because I have a brother, he can still escape it till today, but I couldn't because I became a mom, right? And the first 9 months, I was so obsessed with my child that I would not leave the room, and I would just want the child to open their eye, like his eye, and look at me and not cry that the mother is not there, without realizing subconsciously that I was being the mother that I did not have.
Right,
Till
right.
9 months, I saw people's eyes and I saw everybody looking at me that what's wrong with her? She's so obsessed mother. So that's where this I started to understand this, that it's very easy to judge from outside, but what the person
Right.
is doing inside. So I got up after 9 months out of the room, which was totally dark usually, and raising the child there in that whole thing all by myself. And that was the first step I took courageously out. No matter what people say, I will stand up. And from there, I studied a meditation. I studied, and I must give the credit to Sharan as well. By that time, I had already told you the story that um, I was forced to go to Sharan by my mentor with my father to reverse diabetes just a month before I became a mom. And when I met Dr. Nandita Shah, I was like so blown away with what she was sharing and the stuff. So then I also took the path of clean cleansing and detoxing. And throughout my pregnancy, I never had milk and everything. So I think all that worked. And even if it was not a typical depression that you can I didn't get diagnosed with, I probably was. And to walk with the child out, I started going back to work, holding him with me everywhere, proudly saying that I'm going to go for a shoot with him. And
Right.
that's how I got out of it for the first time. And
Wonderful.
yeah.
So what brought about the Mothers United movement? Could you tell us a little bit about that as well?
So again, self-work is a long path. You think that you can, and you think that you've dropped, and you think that it's done.
Got it. Yeah.
But it comes back to you
Right.
in different ways. So the first time when I did it, I was very happy saying, okay, I'm behind the
Got
camera.
it. Yeah.
Nobody's watching me. There's no photos being taken. So I'm this cool woman who can keep telling other women that you're very cool and I will take great pictures of you. And I can just keep, being happy and raising the child. Second time, 4 months old, pandemic hit. And of course, I've trained iPhone photography and I was a coach. And I was like, I don't know when the world is opening, and I'm not the kind who can sit. So I was like, wow, I need to go online. And when you go online, you need to show up online. And I'm like, I'm not doing this with this dark circles. What is happening? Like, I'm just not going to turn up. Again, I caught myself
Yeah.
because I feel,
Tests keep coming, huh?
yeah, it keeps coming after eight
Yeah.
years, 6 years, 7 years. Again, it came back to me. And I'm like, now I have no escape, or just sit down like this as a hidden mom and just keep raising this child.
Hmm.
So then I took the path of self-portrait because again, my curious mind just said, why is the whole world photographing themselves at this angle? What is it, And of course, technically, I found out that that's the only angle you look nice in. Well,
Hmm.
why wanting to just look nice in this perfect image? And what is photogenic is my question that came to me. And
Hmm.
whoever in my workshops have ever asked what is photogenic, people is like, yeah, what is photogenic? There is nothing photogenic. What is photogenic? If you try to define what photogenic is, there's nothing photogenic. So I was like, when there is nothing photogenic, then why am I not showing up in my full stride? Why am I not showing up with my full broad shouldered? Why am I hiding? Why am I?
Hmm.
And then I started to do self portraits. And all the negative talk, I would just like post it and not even look at it. And I had promised myself, I'll not go back, I'll not look at it, I'll not think what my sister is thinking, or my neighbor is thinking, or my friend is thinking, or my client is thinking. I will just show up just the way I am, in my t-shirt, with my children, with my Legos, with everything. And I started showing up and I started creating. And then I created the workshop called the Self-Portrait Workshop for Transformation. And
Mhm.
the research happened. And from that research, I realized that this is an epidemic kind of a situation. Not, it's a pandemic, I think. Across the world, mothers were feeling like that. No matter what country they were, they felt very horrible about how they are, and they did not want to show up. And then I had a 77-year-old mom, then I had a 100-year-old mom, and they are feeling for 100 years, and their mom felt it. And then their mom felt it, and they said, my mom, even if once a year, we used to take a Christmas pictures, she would refuse it. She would just say, I don't want to be in the pictures. I'd rather be behind the pictures. And then they were missing from their children's pictures, photos,
Right.
everything. And
Okay.
I was like, done. I can't sit. I'm being guided. And I went ahead and I announced 100 days, 100 inspiring stories, and 100 moms across the world will be found and interviewed. And I will teach them self-portrait so that it's not selfies, it's not image, and they can liberate themselves just the way they want the world to view them. And
Wonderful. All right.
that's how we found these 100 mums. And then, of course, breakthroughs of another levels happened through that project.
I can imagine. What were the breakthroughs? Tell us.
Uh, okay, I sometimes sounds a little odd and off this thing, but my first breakthrough was that I was talking to a mom in Russia, and while talking to her, suddenly I saw a dinosaur because my child was in the dinosaur, and then I told her that, did you know that dinosaur was also a mom? And she says, yeah. And she's like, what are you trying to say? So I was like, so do you know that we belong to an ancient pulse? And it's not a pulse of today. So why are we so confused? It is something that we've known from dinosaur time. And she's like, that's interesting. And then I said, if dinosaur knew how to protect her child from predators, we must be knowing how to protect our child. And the dinosaur took care of itself. So we know, and everybody in between the dinosaur and us took care of themselves and got out of it. Why are today's modern moms lost? Why are we so lost? Not judging them, but we were lost. And we have the solution of today's predators. And today's predators for us could be social media, for our children, the over information, bad health, lack of immunity, getting away from nature. These could be our predators, which we need to deal with and we must deal with. And that was my first breakthrough. And then I got up and this is another very interesting story. I woke up and the next day there was a snake. Uh, and because we're all about nature, I think this story, though not too many people know, but I opened the Facebook and there was a snake going and there was a big rat like trying to peck the snake at the tail. And I just stopped and paused, what's happening here? And kept on pegging till the time Zoom happened and there was a baby rat in the snake's mouth. I'm
Oh,
like, wow, this is amazing. And because I was right in the middle of the mum pulse that I was talking
right.
about,
Right.
I was just like, if this baby was not there, this rat would have run like 100 kilometers away from
Correct.
snake.
Right.
But
Right.
because the baby is in the mouth, this one is trying to protect the baby and it's ready to fight the snake.
Hmm.
That was interesting.
Amazing.
Yeah, and
That,
that's what the suddenly the baby dropped and the snake went and it chased the snake away and they reunited.
right.
And I was just like, this is it. You can't mess with a mother. You might be the prey for the enemy, whatever, but you will fight for. And then stories had started to come up where mothers have stood up, fought for their children, fought for themselves when they were a mother. And they all confessed if they were not a mother, they would have not taken the charges and the decisions and the thing and the courage, because some of them were domestic violence, they were beating cancer for their children, they've lost their child to a rare disease. They would have not done all these things if they were not a mom, because they were always very scared people, but something happened to them when they became a mom. So these were some of the breakthroughs I was bringing to the world as an attention to say
Wow.
that we belong to a pulse that belongs to that snake and it also is in us. But let's not just get so away from it that we need auto validation to how to raise our children. We
Right.
know how to raise our children, and we do not need auto validation and all the time Instagram or all the time our neighbor's correction or some competition if our children are going well or not. It's we need to align to the pulse, and the pulse will guide us how to raise the
How to
children.
do it. Right, right. It's just we need to connect back. I think somewhere we are disconnected, isn't it?
Exactly.
So how did you connect? I'm sure Dr. Shah had something to do with this, but how did you connect the mother cow? You talked about how, I mean, you went through how a mother is taken away from a baby. So I think did that make it easy for you to make the connection of the dairy industry? I mean, what's happening in the dairy industry?
Of course, Dr. Shah is the key in my life for introducing me to the world of, as I told you, I was forced at the age of 18, 19 to 20 or whatever. Not actually, it was 25, 26 I was, to go and watch her thing for my father's diabetes reversal, which I was like, why am I going with him?
Yeah.
But I was meant to be, because it opened my eyes towards how she was talking about the dairy industry. And from there, of course, I left dairy. And then because I breastfed my kid, I started to relate to it even more, because I realized that the milk in me has only come for my baby. It was not there before this. So the right of the milk is my baby's milk. And that's how my weaning sometimes took 2 years. The second one was 2 years, 7 months, because they need to decide. And that's how the connection with the cow came in, that they need to decide what to do with the milk. Why are we deciding? And not only the cow, any animal. And then there was an interesting thing, because I buy a lot of children's books. I started to find books in which it was written, cow gives us milk, hen gives us egg, you know. So I had started to make those relation, and I was just like I stopped reading those books to my child, because cow doesn't give us milk. Like I was like, your mom also gives milk. Like there's everybody who gives milk when they become a mother.
Right.
So that was my first connection with my child and the milk and the cow industry. From there on, my husband had hit an autoimmune,
Mhm.
and he refused to believe that from health point of view it's going to. And I kept on telling him, no, for past 6 years I'm following them, this is going to be the. So initially he's like, no way. But unless like the time came when he's like, all right. And then we tossed. I again called Dr. Shah and I said to her that we are ready. And then she told me, and of course I was a mom at that time, so she thought that, oh, she's being very smart, that he's ready. So she just told me, why are you not ready? You need to be on this diet because you're a mom, and you need this whole vitality and this excitement and energy. What is, like, you should do it together. So when me and Rohit became partners, and we did reversal of his autoimmune and my energy levels together. And then
Mhm.
we started something called Health Diaries, where I featured people like Vidina Hatra, Veer the Contractor, Dr. Shah, and other people to come and talk to my neighbors about what uh, I was learning and I was fascinated with.
Right. So what are the changes apart from, of course, reversal and the energy? Did you find a shift somewhere after even changing what your diet?
I think our focus was so much health, Raina, that first was just that. And I think what I also realized, you needed a community, which
Mm.
Sharan was very beautifully bringing in,
Mhm.
and the support. We couldn't go so much. Of course, again, my poetry mentor had put some seeds of nature, and Dr. Shah added those seeds and everything. So I became very conscious of nature, etc. But
Mhm.
for me, the passion, the fact that, of course, I wanted to bring light in people's life through my work, that you can shine just with good health. And that
Absolutely.
was good enough for me and Rohit to
True.
focus on, because the aura
Right.
and the community we wanted to create. And I think we created communities and a lot of questions, but a lot of love and a lot of we can even today, just yesterday, somebody has hit with autoimmune. They called us and they're like, "Do you really think it can be reversed?" And I'm like, "Yes." And I've just given Sharan, I'm like, go ahead. So sometimes people probably think that I take a cut from Sharan, because that's the first person I Go to Dr. Shah and she will tell you what to do.
Yeah. No, no. It just happens so automatically because when you benefit, you want everyone, and you see it's so easy to be healthy, you know.
Right.
So it's I can understand. It's just But tell me about your book now. You had a very massive launch now, just a month ago, I think, about
Right.
14, 15. Tell
So
us about that. Which did the mums come? How were they connected? And how did you ensure that the mother cow was also taken care over there?
absolutely. Um, so Mothers United movement evolved. It was a process. It was a journey. It never happened on the day one. I decided there will be a Mothers United movement, and day hundreds, that's it. I've done. So as I'm mentioning that I kept on meeting mothers from all kinds and learning from them and understanding the the importance of a mother in today's time and for generations, that the mother's not spoken up for herself, and the fact that the mother was never formally honored. And we do love our mothers, we do give them the credit. Oh, they raised us and they sacrificed, but have we brought them on stage to say, wow, what you're doing is just amazing? We can keep saying that they should be paid like CEOs or they do more work like CEOs, but have we honored them? Have we brought them? With that vision, I brought Mothers United Movement, created a stage. The 100 mothers I'd found, I said, okay, it'll be an in-person event. And about 8, 9 came from outside, 29, 28 came from India. More wanted to come, but they just didn't give them enough time for visas, etc. And virtually many moms joined us from the book to celebrate their story. It was not celebrating my work. It was not celebrating mom. Mom, which is
Right.
my
Mothers
trademark,
United.
Mothers
Right.
United movement. But they were there because somebody was celebrating their story. And we have a 100-year-old mom. And just last week, the book reached her. She's turning 100 in a month's time. And she had been waiting for that book for since February. And I kept on promising her because she turned 99 in February. And I was like, it'll come to you. And I'm finally, with her vision, made it happen for her because it took her 100 years to tell her stories. And
Right.
she got hospitalized just 2 days later, and
Right.
now very serious. But to
Okay.
get to hold her story, she's like, I can't believe I'm in a book.
Okay.
So
Right.
people have celebrated that. And from there, of course, I was so involved in the passion of finding the mothers, finding the answers, finding the thing. And one of the moms, so I brought mothers who I felt were in my life and my journey have contributed some or the other way. And hence, Vinita Contractor, Nidhi Nahata, a lot of these reversal people who were part of SHARAN as well were part of my this thing. And then Nidhi calls me just 10, 15 days before the events. And she's like, I hope you're making the food vegan. And this was a 4-day long event.
Right.
I just got a little lost and I was just like, you know what? I've not even thought about the food because I'm not a foodie. And I don't think I've even thought about am I serving. Yeah. I booked the place. I've done this. I've done that. And there was so many emotions coming together. So she's like, so what are you waiting for? So I said, yeah, I would love to. And my husband apparently was secretly finding the way to make everything whole food plant-based. He was another level. Uh,
Okay.
I was like, well, I am standing at a place where I can only say yes, but I need support because I don't have it in me right now to get off from where I am emotionally because so many people are watching me do this and create this stage that to start only focusing on food.
Right.
But if so, she's like, what if I take charge? And I'm like, absolutely, yes. So I think from me, my contribution was a yes, yes, yes to every message that was coming.
Right.
And it had to happen because I had in my vibration created people and brought people in the book who were into the same vibration that I believe in. Somebody looked
Right.
at me saying, oh, you didn't look this side. And I'm like, oh yeah, I did it.
Yes.
And then Nidhi
Right.
took over and just the chefs were there and we tried to make it whole food, but uh, definitely it became all vegan because she's like, let's honor the mother cow. So we honored all kind of mothers, not only mother cow, but we didn't have a
On
non.
the other hand, yeah.
We
All
would have never had a non-vegetarian, but like she went into detail of getting the replacements and being with chef, her and my husbands have gone to the chef so many times, and I'm really thankful to her because she left her cafe
How
to
wonderful.
feed people vegan food, but not just vegan food, so that they never like it. Vegan food that people are talking about till
Wow.
today. And
Right.
of my neighbor just came 4 days back and said, "You know what, to my son, you know what, your mom's event, there was crepes there, and they were the yummiest crepes I've ever had." And my son
Wow.
comes in like, "You had crepes and I didn't know about it." And my friends also, the kids are talking about the food.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I'm very grateful to her. She took that whole thing on herself and then brought so much honor to a mother cow and any kind of mother who could have got slaughtered to come on the plate or whatever. We she
I
did.
guess when the universe is guiding you, things just fall into place. It's just that we don't want to listen, or we don't want, we kind of get
That's what
disconnected.
I'm saying. When you have a
Yeah.
yes parent, you only
Mm.
know how to say yes. So till here, even the in-person event happened because I was said yes. Will we meet in person? Yes. Will you do it? Yes. Will you get the sponsor? I don't know, but yes. And then Nidhi said vegan food. I said yes. And
Just happened. And you got a letter from the Prime Minister as well.
yes. And that also, see, again, it was a yes because when I landed in Delhi, which is my hometown after 3 years, some message came to me again saying that the only man who can actually, because I pretty much like the way he operates with new things and his vision with new ideas, would understand what you're doing and which can move the media is him. And
Mm.
then I sat down and I wrote a letter. And then again, universe opens up. I was at a dinner and somebody said, "Oh, I know how you can send the letter to him." And then I took his help to send the letter and
Oh,
forgot about it. And
okay.
then after 6 months, received a call from the Home Ministry saying, "Ma'am, you had written a letter," and it was an acknowledgement of the fact that even I think the Home Ministry and the government realized that they've done the Beti Bachao, they've done the women empowerment, they've done the entrepreneur because it's written in the letter that
Right.
entrepreneur, but there was no thing for a mother. They've
Mother.
not
Right.
started any project for a mother. So they said that this project will bring empowerment to women.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Tell us, you were telling me about one or two stories, and they were so interesting. Could you tell us about the
I
stories?
mean, you asked me that, the one or two stories I have so many, but I will still take the liberty of telling you four short stories, three, four very short stories, because this will show you the variety and the shades of this incredible mothers that we have. I think number one of the most talked story of mine is for any mother who's sitting here thinking that she cannot take it, she cannot do this, she can't take her child to a dinner, or she can't take her child and start traveling because she wanted to. We have Sangeeta, who is an Air Force officer, first Air Force officer batch of our country, who was celebrated with other 12 women out of 24,000 forms in 1992 or 93 as the first Air Force batch. And they were the stars. The whole world was watching. What are these 12 women going to do? So from there, she was posted in Northeast to a place where she joked that if you send the letter in June for Christmas, it'll reach us probably during Christmas time.
Okay.
So it was so remote. And from there, I think she got married to an Air Force officer, had a child. And then her next posting was Ladakh. And she refused to leave the child back to her parents in Delhi. She had a 2-year-old. So she took for border patrolling her child to Ladakh for 2 years and did border patrolling in mud houses, minus 25 degrees, 30 degrees sometimes, and leaving sometimes with the bachelors. Like, in those places, it's not that there's a
Yeah.
crowd. There are 5 people posted, and you're the sixth one. And then you leave your child and say, "Take care of him. I'm just taking a round of the plane and coming back." Um, and she has border patrol. So, and the child has eaten potato, lentils, and rice for 2 years in that temperature. And then that happened. That gave me a lot of strength because I just think the resilience is so high. And if the mother is with the child, nothing will happen to the child. So that's
Right.
one story, which is one of my favorites. Then I have Shillian Sidhu, who's in the US, she's a visually impaired mom, who, when she was about 24, she had burnt her eye in her while working. There was some chemical and it went into her eye. And this is again about saying no in the world when things. So she kept on working for 8, 9 hours rather than taking going to the hospital because there was a consignment, and she just washed her eyes. But by the time she reached home, things were melting in her face and her hand. And
Mhm.
she's created a fist. Her hand became a fist, and she was told in 7 days she'll lose her eyes. So those 7 days, how she prepared and decided to do something, and wanted to become a painter. So she made her whole room in a way that she could become a painter. And she used to paint with her knuckles because her hands had all become like that. And from there, she became pregnant after getting married to her boyfriend at that time. And she asked the doctor, "Do you think I can take care of the child?" And she's like, "Yeah, I have another patient who's visually impaired that has 3 kids, and she's doing well. I'm sure you can, but you can't hold your child because you have a fist. How will you hold your child? That's my only problem. And if you can't
Right.
see, the child can fall because you can't hold."
Correct. Right.
So they anyway went ahead and they had the baby, and then she realized actually what the doctor was saying, because she couldn't breastfeed the child and she wanted to hold the child and she wanted, but she couldn't. And then I think she prayed and she cried for 6 days, and then her hands magically opened, or she forced them to open, or she started to believe that it'll open, and then she held her child. And from there, now her child is 5 years old and she's taking care of it. She's a painter of another another level. I want to buy her painting because she paints now with a brush, but of uh, incredible, incredible. So we have stories like that. We have people like Deepa Malik who are Paralympians, chest below paralyzed, and they've attained so much grace, to women with domestic violence of some other level, to women who have had there's a woman who has 12 kids, Leslie, and how she escaped her house with all 12, and then her children were taken away by the government, and how she got the custody back
Mhm.
because she was not in a marriage that was doing anything, but she took all 12 because her mother doesn't leave even one behind. Even if you have
Yeah.
12, you take all 12. So we
Right.
have these stories, and that's the glimpse of few. I have hundreds such stories in the book.
How wonderful. And you were telling me about a man who's in this book.
Yes, that's another very interesting story. And again, yes is my life's mantra, so I said yes to him as well. And he was, and I'll just take a minute probably to tell this story because this is something that I'm standing up for also now, for
Mhm.
mothers. And he was in a Zoom session. It was 97th mom that I'd reached, and he told me that, "Can I, Shikha, can I cross, like, I just want to talk to you." And I was like, "Yeah, unmute and talk to me." And she's like, "I'm crossing my limits, but I know that you've already decided who your 100 moms are, but will you take my mom in the book?" And I said, and he was crying he's almost 55 to 60 years of age. And I was like, "Absolutely, yes." And I just joined my hand. I said, "She's the next mom." And
Mm.
like, "But she's no more." I was like, "Okay, she's still the next mom. We'll still go ahead. Like, this is my message, and we will still go ahead." And then later I spoke to him in the interview, and of course I was crying because his mom was an athlete who was not allowed to be in Olympics. She was a high jumper who used to jump over cars in the parking, and she had broken all
Oh, wow.
records. The government had, you know, given her an award for breaking records. But women never went to Olympics, and at that time they couldn't be entrepreneur without having a husband. They needed a husband side, and then she got married 3 4 times, and all the 4 times she had a very abusive husband who used to. The second time was the worst because he had a war veteran who nobody could touch because you're a war veteran from Vietnam. But all the anger of the war came on her with knives and picking her heads and bashing it to the kitchen walls. And Frank has witnessed that. And then again, the snake thing that I keep talking about, that nobody messes with the mom. When the stepfather pushed Frank from the stairs and kicked him down, that's the time she picked up the gun and she said, "You mess with me, it's okay," because she was hospitalized, ICU, somehow survived it. "But you don't mess with my child, you don't kick my child." And that's the time her father came and stopped it and told that guy, "If you don't leave the house now," see, I'm still getting goosebumps talking
I
about it.
know.
But
I'm getting it as well. Right.
yeah, if you don't leave the house now, I will allow my daughter to shoot you because it's enough. And from there, they have this was the story of her. And then when she died, she had already inspired many women because she got through so much. And her belief was that if you are a victim for the first time, or a domestic violence or anything in your life, actually even disease, you're a victim only one time. Every time it repeats, you're a volunteer to it. So if you don't get out of it, you're a volunteer. And that was her message. And from there, she became this person who helped many women through domestic violence. And she was given some name and award when she died. When she died, she told Frank that I wish somebody could hear my story. And after she passed away in almost 12 years, 13 years, her story is now printed as a golden page in the book. And
One.
it's being heard now. And when he was writing it, it seemed that she was writing her story. And that's what came across to him.
So how do we get this book, Shikha? How do
It's a very good thing, as I didn't think of the vegan story, I was so involved in emotional thing. I'm still not sort of the setup, but at the moment I can courier the books if somebody really wants it. We are putting it on Amazon. We are getting the waiting list. So I can send you the link of the form. If you fill the form, you can go on the waiting list. We can inform you that it's available on Amazon, or
Mhm.
if you really want to have it, we can send it across.
So in a crux, Shikha, you've met so many mothers, you've been part of this, I mean, part of this amazing relationships that we share. In a crux, what would you like to say to all the mums here? What is it something that they need to keep in mind at all times?
One life, right? And another life coming out of us. And it's our responsibility to speak up for generations that mothers couldn't speak up for. Speaking up doesn't mean making an andolan or making a big morcha or taking flags on the road and say, give us our rights. Speaking up is in a gentle way telling the world that please see what we are going through, acknowledge it, help us so that we can move forward, so the next generation can unfold and, uh, just spread their wings. And I always say that when a mother, and I must say that to the mothers, that go back to dreaming, don't put the dreaming away. This book is called, I will show you the copy of the book also. It's called
Yeah.
100 Self-Portrait, 100 Dreams. If a mother dreams holding their children on their back and then climbs the Mount Everest, she can always show a better view to her children than lying low there. Her children cannot go up because they don't have the skills. They only learn the skills when their parents climb up. So when the parents learn to dream again, the path on their back will teach them more than any education, than anything. So start
Right.
to dream. It should not be like my dream, bringing 100 mothers. It could be any dream. And just make sure you take your children right next to them. My children have been through my journey, and they will never forget what my mother went through and what she did. And that will teach them so much more. So start dreaming is my message. And
Right.
dream without hesitation that I can't, I shouldn't, I should not, I don't want to because I have children. They will only grow if you grow. And
Right.
that's the problem of our society today. The political leaders are coming from a mother who doesn't know how to dream. The army officers are coming from there. The corporates, everybody. So it's not their fault if they're not understanding the society's problem. It is the mom who's just gone in a shell, and we just need to create a situation to get them out.
Beautiful. Keep dreaming. Absolutely. Thank you, Shikha. I think it was very empowering, and I hope more and more women, listen to you and probably get to the book and realize that they're not the only ones, and there is a solution. It's
Yes.
just that we have to give that effort out. So that's what Sharan is all about: sanctuary for health and reconnection to animals and nature. And connecting to our inner nature is a part of being healthy as well. Wishing you all from us at Sharan that you all find your light and love always. Thank you.